And welcome back, everybody, to Double Down with Breslo, where we cover everything in the sports, the business of sports betting world. And we've got another great guest for you. We've been on a bit of a hiatus through the summer, but we're thrilled to have all the way from across the pond, Sebastian Lewis, who is the co-founder and CEO of Plucky, Plucky.com. And Plucky is a startup internet business with a very unique angle. And that's been one of the great things about this show is all the great startups that we've interviewed and taken advantage of the expansion of the gaming business here in the US and in the UK. And Sebastian definitely has an angle that I had never heard of before. So looking forward to chatting with him about that. Hello, Sebastian.
Hi, nice to meet you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, awesome. So, let's get right into Plucky, and everybody can obviously open up Plucky.com, which is Plucky.com, right? No
That's
E.
right. No E.
I always like to talk about the name first. So, is that what's the P in Lucky?
Yeah, so we were looking for a kind of all-inclusive brand to bring everybody in, when they're competitively socializing. So we wanted a word that had the word luck in it, but also Plucky, I guess, stands for somebody that, thinks they've got something about them, is potentially going to win over their friends. I actually bought the name in the US. It has heritage back to Looney Tunes. That was used for I think one of their rabbits or something was called Plucky. So yeah, we traveled across the pond and got the name from there. So yeah, no, we love it.
So the origin is Looney Tunes. So if you guys really knock it out of the park, now you've already given away the fact that you stole it from Looney Tunes. So
yeah, I think it was a duck. Actually, it was a duck.
They're getting their lawyers are getting ready already. Cool. So what I thought was the thing that people might be most interested about, but who knows? I know you got three verticals going on with Plucky, all three of them interesting. But let's start with the fantasy one, because I'm kind of surprised no one has done this before, but maybe they have. You know the space, but there's so many fantasy leagues, and we got American football starting up very soon. So I'm not a big fantasy guy, but I reluctantly participate in one because my brother runs one, and so it's sucked me into the fantasy world. It hasn't always been my thing, but I get the appeal of it now, and I'm heading into about my 6th season. I don't do very well on it because the other guys spend way more time on it than I do. But I certainly think I get this concept because all these individual fantasy leagues, there's the whole issue of paying and getting paid. And I know the way my brother runs it, it's a little sloppy, and there's 12 people in the pool, and it's $150 each or something like that. And but he doesn't bother trying to collect until the end of the season, and then good luck collecting at the end of the season. So there's emails going out every month of all these people that still haven't paid their original $150. But you have a solution to that. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so my co-founder Ian Brannigan is a huge fantasy player. He's been playing Fantasy Premier League here in the UK for 15 years. Yeah, you've nailed it straight away. So been playing a group of 20 people, playing for money, trying to do season-long, weeklies, monthlies, and yeah, it's been a nightmare. So not collecting money. Sometimes there would be a group of them that may be down the bar one night and they'd spend the winnings, and yeah, total disaster. So we got our heads together and looked at whether there was an application for pooling money from people in a quick, regulated, safe way, and then connecting ourselves to the game that they were playing. That could be any fantasy sport. It could be a television show. It could be in a bar, and paying out on a verified event. And I think what you said about your own experience is right. We're looking at engaging people that may not be very good. So we allow the initiator, what we call the chairman or whoever sets up the pool, to choose what the prizes might be. And that doesn't necessarily always have to be about the winner. It might be who was the biggest loser that week, because it's fun. There's money on it, and we put a percentage away for the loser, and we keep the money swimming around in people's wallets so that they can continue to play. So it's for everyone, rather than always the winner collecting the money at the end of the season.
Right. And then tell us kind of exactly how it works, because just as a for instance, to use my pool as an example, and here in the States, everybody's focused on NFL pools
Yeah,
typically.
we partner. We don't invent games. We partner with audiences that are pre-existing. And Fantasy Premier League here in the UK has 13 million players, so the audiences are big. One recent deal we've just gone live with is a big publisher here in the UK called the Telegraph newspaper group. They run a fantasy football product based on the Premier League, hundreds of thousands of players, and we are connected to their API. And people in the game get to press the Plucky button. It's a big button next to their league, and they enter a regulated environment, Plucky.com. We know their team name, we know the players in it, we know the points they've got because we're connected via API, and we collect their money and we sit on it and we pay it based out on the events that they choose as they play over the 38 game weeks.
Oh, my love of your idea just went a few notches higher. I wasn't realizing that it's really a B2B play for you guys, which makes a lot more sense than players having to find you.
Yeah, I have built tech businesses before, and getting consumers is an expensive game here and everywhere. So why would you invent or try and change behavior that's pre-existing? These audiences are already paying for money, so you just need to facilitate a super fast, easy, quick way of them pooling their money. And then the really nice bit is not having to manage payouts. It's already pre-existing in the rules, and it manages it all for you.
So how many deals do you guys have right now?
So we signed our first major deal a few months ago with Genius Sports in the US, and they've basically taken us on to monetize their 600 odd partners, rights holders around the world. So basically trying to monetize any free to play fantasy game that is existing in their stable. So pretty big deal. The first one of those is the Telegraph, which went live a couple of weeks ago, and we're seeing great take up. We're pretty new, so we're just starting to work through who those next partners might be.
Mm-hmm. So you did the deal was with Genius, which owns a bunch of different free fantasy sites. What's their biggest in the US?
As well as a data company, they're a free-to-play game builder provider to rights holders around the world. So, for example, with the Telegraph Group, they are the guys that build the game for the Telegraph. Telegraph are in the game of writing news content, and they don't want to build their own game. So yeah, they use companies like Genius, and then Genius have now partnered with Plucky to monetize that free-to-play game.
And do those guys have anything in the US that will allow you to enter the US in any fantasy league?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we starting here in the UK, and we've just got our Irish license, and we are looking at some audiences in Australia that translate pretty quickly, and then we'll be looking at the US market.
And do you guys have a competitor?
So in the UK, in Europe, we have competitive socializing. There's a bunch of apps kind of out there and trying it. I would say a lot of people are trying to invent new behavior, invent new games, and that's not our theory. We think the games already exist. In the US, obviously, you have the giants of DraftKings and things like that. But I do think there is an element to Plucky that is playing the game slightly differently. The branding, positioning, and the all-inclusiveness of it is bringing in some interesting customers that I think the fixed odds players, certainly here, and I think in the US, don't necessarily reach.
So let's talk about legality and licensing, because if you're taking a free-to-play fantasy game and now adding the betting element to it, that obviously puts you now into a whole different category. So do you guys have to be licensed just like regular gaming companies?
Yeah, so pooling money here in the UK isn't necessarily needs to be licensed, but look, we found that we were going to want to be doing things with gambling companies and all sorts of rights holders. So we became regulated. We like the discipline of it and the fact that everybody's over 18 and they're KYC'd. So yeah, we're regulated by the UKGC. As I say, we've just got our Irish license. So that's obviously set the business up in a licensed and regulated way. What I'll also say is the partners love the regulation. You know, they don't want any headaches. They've got hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people playing free to play games. You don't want to be bringing them a headache around. We just found an underage person playing for money where they shouldn't have been, or they've used the credit card. So you know we're held by all of the LCCPs here in the UKGC. So you know we I guess we outsource the headache for the partner. So in terms of how that legality works, a player is in the game, they press the Plucky button, and they're handed off to plucky.com, where they enter a regulated environment. And then once we have their money, we send them back to the game where they leave the regulated environment. So they can still play the game from a free perspective, but you know that over in plucky.com, there's money on it.
And is it effectively the same license that any online gambling entity would get?
We have a pool betting license. We don't have a fixed odds or casino license. So I guess it depends on what games you want to provide. But from our perspective, we're pooling money on pre-existing games. So today we just have a pool betting license.
Yeah, it's interesting. In the U.S., most states limit the number of licenses that they're issuing. I mean can be a huge political issue when a state approves online gambling. Here is, you know, who's going to get the licenses and how many will there be. There's a lot of pre-existing gaming interests in any particular state, whether it be Indian gaming or horse racing or existing casinos, etc., and they're naturally going to be positioning themselves to get the only licenses.
Yeah, and that's, you know, that sounds difficult for, yeah, certainly companies like us that are starting up and feel like we have a different angle. If the whole you know, state has been cornered because of a fixed odds license and they don't have particular interest in pool betting, then that feels pretty unfair. But yeah, I'm yet to enter the US space. I look forward to it.
Yeah. Well, when you deal with fantasy is kind of in a whole different category. So as long as you stay in the fantasy realm, then it's really a different story. And it's also very patchy state by state, which ones regulate it, which ones don't, which ones allow it. But you don't have that same licensing problem that you've got with the fixed odds betting. So how do you guys make money on this?
So we take a rake. We're 10% rake for any pool that's accumulated. And we typically share that with the partner that we're monetizing the audience. I would say that not only are we looking at from a revenue perspective, but also it's not surprising that the publisher or the rights holder is looking for ongoing engagement. So back to your example of not winning, you know, you see engagement drop off massively from game week 1 to 38. But if you're winning money because you were the biggest loser, you know, you're clicking into the game a lot more often than you were last year when there wasn't money on it. So yeah, we're in the game of selling revenue lines, but also you know, increasing engagement and hopefully bringing net new customers to the audience.
And how can I fund my account?
So here, apologies, I'm UK focused, but we have debit card only here in the UK. You can't use credit cards. It's illegal to gamble with credit cards. And we're just about to roll out PayPal, and then we have a new technology in Europe here called open banking, which connects all of the banks up together so that you can actually instruct your bank without a card as to what you want to do. And I think that's going to get pretty interesting when we look at regular funding of wallets over 38 weeks. You know, one of our challenges is how do we remind people to keep putting the money in if they want to play weekly? Wouldn't it be better if they just instructed their bank and then that gave us the opportunity to fund it if the money wasn't in the wallet? So open banking is pretty new here, but yeah, we're at the forefront of it. We roll it out next month. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see the take up of people instructing their banks over using a debit card.
So have you actually launched with Telegraph yet?
We have, yeah. The UK soccer season, as you call it, started here a couple of weeks ago, and we started monetizing their free-to-play audience um, on day one. We, in the next couple of weeks, are rolling out our monthly and weekly options, as well as wooden spoon prizes. But yeah, they're the first partner, so it's been fascinating to see the funnel work and kind of what sort of metrics we've been getting.
Yeah. Yeah. Any early indication as to like the percentage of fantasy leagues that are choosing to work with Plucky?
So, in terms of overall audience, we'll know that when, like by about game week 4, because that's when they kind of hit their total audience typically. But I mean, already we're seeing like 95% plus KYC rates in the UK, which is pretty phenomenal. So that means, people are, the challenge for this is you playing a free to play game. You're told, oh, by the way, over here you can now play for money. What's your willingness to go through that journey? And one of the aspects of that journey is we need to know who you are and we need to know you're 18. So sending them through a KYC, know your customer uh, series, we're getting about 95% plus positive conversion through KYC. And then we've seen upwards of 78% deposit rate in the first login. And I think, that's obviously, again, very high when you compare that to traditional gambling applications. But I do think, it's a slightly different animal in that you're playing fancy. You truly believe you're the best out of your group of friends, or certainly you want to join the crowd. So your willingness to kind of complete that journey, I think, is very, very high compared to maybe I should have a bet on an NFL game and, I'll watch the game for a bit longer. I might do it. I might not. Oh, things have changed in the game. Oh, okay, I'm not going to. This is like, no, I've been deliberating over picking this team for 4 weeks. I think it's the best team I've got. So I believe in it. And I think the willingness to complete that journey is extremely high.
So presumably every player in the fantasy pool has to go through the process of registering, etc.
No, if you've got 20 friends and only 10 of you want to play for money, then so be it. We will pay out in order of who's playing for money. It's
Right.
not
Sorry. What I meant, anybody who wants to play for money, though, they have to be registered and vetted by you to assure that they're 18, etc.
correct.
Yeah. Yeah. So the key for you guys is to making sure that journey is not a pain in the ass, so that when people think, hey, this looks like a good idea, and then they start getting into it and they realize, it's too much information I got to share, forget it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. But look, it's really a matter, it seems to me, of getting whoever what we call the commissioner here of the league. If he flat out says, hey guys, this is how we're doing it. If you want to be in my league, you got to do it this way, then so be it. If my brother told me that, hey, this is how we're doing the league this year, I'm sure I would do it.
Yeah, no, and I think that's why we're seeing such a high deposit rate. Because, like you say, if the group's doing it, then you do it, and hopefully, what we've allowed is fixing some of those pain points you've been seeing doing it manually.
Okay, let's talk about the next vertical. You had mentioned before we went on the air that it allows people at bowling alleys to bet with each other. How does that work?
Yeah, so competitive socializing is blowing up here in the UK and Europe, and we're seeing countless bars opening up that are providing a sport element. So whether that's teeing off, hitting a cricket ball in a net, we have darts. We even have axe throwing. Actually, in London, there's a bunch of axe throwing bars in London where everyone's competitively socializing. It's a huge thing with like companies, taking out the office. So there's been an explosion of these places where people are competitively socializing. And yet again, like fantasy, you won't be surprised to hear that people are playing for money. And it's difficult, even I would say even more difficult in a live environment because you're not at your computer. You're all staring at each other. We don't carry cash anymore. So that's out of the window. So we were looking at possibly using the technology to be able to quickly pull money in a group of people playing a sport. So much like partnering with B2B players like publishers in the fantasy space, we're now partnering with bars here in the UK And again, we API to the screen. So when you throw the darts and it's up on the screen, it's telling everybody who's winning. We pay out on the verified events through the API of the bar technology. So there's, a huge, market here. I think in the US too. I'm not. I'll defer on the licensing in the US at the moment, but it seems like what Plucky is providing is going to solve that problem in a live environment.
So it's got to be anything that already is tracking the results electronically, right? So
we feel like a verified event is just going to solve a lot of problems. Somebody choosing who's winning is going to be open to open to problems. I don't think it's out. Sorry.
Well, so yeah, sorry, just because we've got the difference between US and UK, I have to ask, so what are the verified events that are happening in bars in the UK? You mentioned darts does it, bowling, I guess, does it?
Yeah, anywhere where there's a TV and a technology that is recording the result, you can use that as a verified result and use that as your source.
So what
Yeah,
is it? That includes the axe throwing? They have that all.
they have that on screen. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, axe throwing sort of kind of became a thing here for a while, like 5 years ago, but I've never played it, so I didn't know whether or not it shows it. We have bowling, but I don't know. All I know is you see your score on the screen as you're bowling. Is that what you're talking about?
yeah.
Tapping into?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
because you're typing your players' names in there. You're giving us your information. You're giving us your team names. We're getting the result from the pins. So we have everything we need to replicate, a fancy game. It's not a fancy game. It's a live event, but the theory is the same.
Right. So, like you said, you're not at your computer, so instead you're at a bowling alley. So, as far as what a pain in the ass it is to sign up, what does the person have to go through if they're at a bowling alley? They're doing it all on their phone?
Yeah, on their phone. So a lot of the bars here will provide pre-registration before you enter, just because you want to get your team names, your players' names, your players' email addresses. There's a lot of bars providing post-event results. So they'll email you your stats personally to you. So there's a lot of data input going in days, weeks, hours before people are turning up at the bar. So that's obviously a great opportunity for us to say, by the way, you can plucky this and when
And
you're
once
in the
you
bar,
have, sorry to interrupt, once you've got a Plucky account, then it becomes a lot easier, right?
of
Now I
course,
can, right? So whether I'm throwing axes at one bar or bowling at another bar, I've got
yeah,
my Plucky account, kind of like my, PayPal account.
that's absolutely right. Once you've got an account, it's going to be much easier for you to move around into different bars and sports and everything else. And then obviously in the live environment, we are offering QR codes on different bits of apparatus around the bar to quickly put you into your game and take and collect and collect your money and take your information. So, for example, the sixes cricket, we have sixes cricket bars here in the UK. So we're rolling out at the end of September into 15 UK sixes bars. I think they just opened one out in Texas actually. And the QR codes are on the back of the bats. So everybody gets a bat before they walk into the net. They scan the QR code, immediately knows what team they're in, what their name is, and it just makes it super easy to monetize your game. And like I
Cool.
say, not everybody has to play for money.
All right. Now tell us about the third one. And we got about 5 minutes to go to hear about the third one.
So yeah, we here in the UK have sweepstakes, which in sort of and I know the language is potentially different in the US, but here we will watch a big horse race, the Grand National. There are 36 runners and riders, and in an office, we all put £10 in. We pick a piece of paper out of a hat, and we get one of the horses. Total random pick, and the winner takes the pot. And that's what a sweepstake here is in the UK. Again, it's a nightmare putting all the money in a hat. Somebody has to manually write all of the horses down on bits of paper. Not everyone may be at the office at the same time. So we offer, again, the Plucky technology works in the same way. And we not only do that in sporting events, but we're also talking to big rights holders in television shows, where there's people maybe fighting it out to win a singing contest. You get a random pick in that, and it's fun. It's inclusive, and that's applying the technology to sweepstakes.
Mm-hmm. Do you have to be careful what people are betting on? For instance, in the US, for instance, politics is something that, most states don't really permit you to wager on. Although, of course, the rules are a little bit different if you're just talking about wagering with a friend as opposed to at a casino. So I'm not sure exactly what the laws are pertaining to that. But do you guys have to be cautious about what exactly the people are betting on?
We will pretty much gamble on anything in the UK. Politics is definitely on the table. I think we probably have to be careful when things are entering a space where, I don't know, there's potential for, I don't know whether if there is a television program with danger or something where we could potentially be monetizing something where a group or a party are kind of worse off. But no, we don't have anything in particular that we can't provide a sweepstake on.
Well, and I guess another way of asking it, just so I understand how this vertical works, are you guys putting up there what are the things that are available to be bet upon, or are people creating their own bets?
At the moment we're providing a list of things that you might want to play for, but Plucky is not very old. We're a couple of years into testing and learning, so we would like to be at a place where if we were connected to certain data providers, that you could spin up a sweepstake on your chosen event rather than us choosing that for you.
And aren't these right now, if you wanted to participate in a horse racing sweepstakes, do the online gaming companies offer that? Albeit you're gambling against people you don't know, but is that already something that you can do?
No, our market is saturated with fixed odds betting, and our theory is that that's tailoring a pretty saturated segment of the market. It's not a given that everybody in the UK understands fixed odds. So the sweepstake here in the UK is traditionally all inclusive. Everyone in the office can do it. Everybody at home can do it. So yeah, we think that's a big market, and then taking that player on other wagers, and maybe having a fixed odds bet at the end of their journey. But certainly, they can start life out by having a friendly random pick wager.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. Well, I think we hit all three, and I think all three sound good to me. It sounds like you got a lot of potential in all three, and we look forward to hopefully seeing it in the US soon.
Great.
All right, Sebastian Lewis, the co-founder and CEO of Plucky.com. Go check out Plucky.com. And anything else he should be looking for?
We've got some interesting partnerships that we're going to be rolling out in the sort of next 6 months. Obviously, through Genius Sports, we're pretty excited about that relationship and the size of that business and partnering with Plucky. So, yeah, keep a lookout for some of the rights holders and publishers that we're going to be monetizing in the next sort of 6-12 months.
Cool. All right, Sebastian, thank you so much for joining Double Down, and thank you all for listening and watching to Double Down. We'll be back soon with another great interview. Take care, everyone.